Top of the morning, y'all. Welcome to the Dreams by Any Means Motivation Station. I'm your host, Ed Doxson. Hope everyone's enjoying this beautiful Sunday. I know I am. Beautiful out here today, man. Walking out here enjoying the good nature, good outdoors, building up some sweat. Starting off the day with some meditation, prayer, good worship music, black coffee, H2O, all the tools and resources that I use to start my day and get my mind right. But hope everybody's doing well. We're here in June at this 6-month mark of 2026. The last episode was talking about time, energy, intention, and money. And, this episode today, I kind of been reflecting on that last week, reflecting on the 6-month mark of 2026, reflecting on summer separation of last year, and just reflecting on where I'm at mentally. It's crazy because, it's almost like a deja vu where I feel like I'm back in the summer separation mode, just like it's like something just kicked in, like last summer where I just locked in on everything I had going on and, looking down for the second half of the year, how I wanted to end the year. And I'm kind of like back in that space again this year. Similar to last year, I think the first half of the year, like anything, right, when you're doing beginnings, it was filled with some uncertainty, filled with a couple of lessons, filled with some trying times. We all go into the new year and we have 1,000 things we put on our New Year's resolution list and what we're leaving behind, what we're not going to do, what we're going to do. And then what happens is, the unexpected comes like life always does. And I think that was the first half of the year for me. It was a lot of new beginning, a new company, back in a new environment, just new ways, new habits, and then also just, had to see revelations from people around my life that, I would say new revelations for people from my life that had to realize, some people just aren't meant to be in your life forever. And I say be in your life just a sense of the role that they do play in your life. And all of that was cool. When I look at it 6 months later, those first 6 months of 2026, it happened for a reason for me to be able to identify some things that needs to be adjusted, some things that needs to be removed, and all those type of things. So as we here on this 6-month mark, man, I feel great. When we did the summer separation last year, those who followed, man, it really was a guideline of how to improve your life and make your life better. Spending some time alone, getting uncomfortable, because we typically, try to blame everything around us, everyone and things that are going on. But end of the day, always got to look in the mirror and understand, what can you do better to not have that feeling of looking at everything and everyone else around you for your problems or the current conditions that you may have in your life. Even if it is a situation where, you feel like you were loyal to a fault, you feel like you've done everything, for a person and it backfired on you, but it's a lesson. You take that lesson, you apply it, and you don't let it change you, but you allow it to grow you, and just how to move better, to protect yourself moving forward. So this second half of the year, though, definitely want to let y'all know Summer Separation 2 is coming. We are a couple days away from the official start of the summer, so I'm not going to start it yet. I think this part 2, I'm going to reflect on last year. This part 2, I'm going to give it more of a guideline with, different notes and things that I'll put into the episode description, which we did last year, but just kind of getting a little more critical for you all to be able to have like guidelines to follow. And I'm going to kind of draw out the summer separation in advance. So last year, the episodes were just coming by the day, by the week, by the month, as I was going through that process. But now I went through that process, this part 2, we're going to make it better. We're going to make it more intentional. And, I hope you all be able to tap in on it. And again, I think the lesson for me looking and feeling how I felt last year, and I kind of talked about this on the last episode, is that, man, to really apply something to your life and make it stick, you got to do it more than once. So that summer separation, went from June up into November, like 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. I locked in on all of those rules that were part of the summer separation. And then, the holidays hit And I felt like I kind of just let loose with certain eating habits, let loose with certain mentalities that I had, during the summer separation. And that's the lesson that I have as I look a year later from last June of us approaching summer separation, that 1 year mark, is that, you have to have that repetition. And that repetition can't just happen just when it feels fun, just when, right now the summer's here, the weather's good, people are traveling, you're feeling good, cookouts are going on, all that type of stuff, right? But how is it like taking the summer separation rules and that repetition and doing it in the wintertime, doing it when it's cold, doing it around the holiday season when you're getting invited to all these different cookouts and all these different things are going on that could go against your rules. So I definitely, definitely going to make sure that second part is a great one for sure. And, today as I'm talking to y'all, right, I'm actually don't even have a specific topic. We're going to kind of move around. Shout out to Monte. We're going to kind of move around today with just the type of information. I feel good, I feel good, and I feel good in the sense of that, like I said, these first 6 months of this year, it was just a lot of lessons and a lot of trying times. And still right now, certain trying times in certain areas of my life, but I'm not letting it get the best of me. And y'all know how I always say on here, hustle plus faith equals success, by any means mindset, all that type of stuff that I live by. You get tested when you are in uncomfortable conditions. And, I've learned that the test is gonna always come, but I also learned too, when you really have a calling on your life for something that you really need to do, it's gonna be more trials and tribulations than a normal. And, lately for me, I have been really seeking God and, seeking out in the world of really focusing on alignment with purpose. I think often with purpose, we say what it is, but I forget the exact quote, but it's like your purpose actually finds you. And then it's like, I did an episode about that. You can't run from your purpose. And then it's tricky when your purpose could be in so many different arenas and so many different areas of life. But then you need to find out how to align your purpose with what you really want to do, not what everyone else thinks you should do, not what you think the world should do, not what you think brings the most financial income. That matters, let's not get that twisted. The money matters, but no, what at the core is really you as far as your purpose. And I think for me, that's lately what I've been praying for, is just purposely alignment. Like not just what I want, but align me with what is part of the purpose. Because I know last year that was a lesson I learned where I did see certain purpose areas in my life. And again, it's not just about career, but this is just about who you are and what you're doing in life. And, last year, 2025, it was purposes that were revealed to me. And I didn't want to fully embrace it at first because it was uncomfortable. And, being transparent, it required more selflessness than maybe I wanted to give at the time. And, as I get ready to be 35 next year, a couple of months from now, I'm learning that with age comes more selflessness. Of course, we always want to put ourselves first, but, man, if you got family, if you got friends, if you're a person in your circle, your community, that just has that influence and people come to you and look at you for certain things, you're going to have to dish out more selflessness maybe than you did in your 20s, right? That's part of just becoming an adult. You become a parent, you become an uncle, your friends start having kids, you grow on your job, you take on more leadership roles, all those different things. That's one of the skills that I learned, and that's going to just be part of the process. So I feel good about, getting back into the space of summer separation too and using those principles to make sure I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to do and I'm aligned with where God, exactly wants to take me. So, yeah, man, I think as we look at June, y'all, and we look at this second half of the year, it's going to be gone after the summer, then the fall and December. And it's just crazy that we're going to be in 2027. And I'm getting ready for a milestone birthday, and I'm excited. Am I where I thought I would be when I was 24? Not at all. But am I where I thought I would be when I was 15, 16? Not at all. But that's a good and a bad thing, right? So I say that to say is that as the journey keeps going, through every chapter you got to go through, man, embrace it, endure it. And one of the biggest things I've been told by older people is, the older you get, you care way less about what people think. You care way less about what the world thinks. And I kind of always had that mindset, but I'd be lying if I didn't say I do care about the view that people have on me and what people expect of me. But like as the older I get, I don't care what nobody think. Because again, going back to summer separation, with a lot of those rules in that process, you spend so much time alone going through the good, the bad, the ugly, the uncomfortable phases that requires, personal growth, that you realize that, man, it's just me. It's just me that got to take care of me. They got to worry about what I got to do. So if that's one token I could give y'all for this second half of the year, man, I would say worry less about what people think, and trust yourself a little bit more. And I think that is what's happening for me now, because shout out to Silas, my mentor. He said that on the episode when he was on the podcast with me, but then also in the group chat, man, he told us that years ago, me, Fran, and Kenny, probably like 2016, in so many words, because we would come to him and, he's a mentor, he's there for advice and insight. But I remember him kind of telling us, like, man, I want y'all to trust yourselves a little bit more. And that's something, my mom told me years ago, like, man, you got to talk to 12 people before you make a decision. And then and in the midst of that, right, I'm going to still make my own decision. But, I value my village. I value their insight, and I value their, advice that they have for me. But again, it's all about you at the end of the day, and whatever decision you make, you're going to have to live with it. So I could reach out to 8 of my, mentors and get their advice on, should I do this or should I do that? But whatever choice that I pick, I'm the one that's going to have to go through it. I'm the one that's going to have to endure it. I'm the one that's going to have to deal with it. And I'm even dealing with that right now, of a choice I made at the top of this year. And now 6 months later, it's like, oh, this wasn't what I thought it was going to be. But again, it's a lesson. I wouldn't know, what this was going to be or not going to be if I didn't go do it. Now, sometimes in your life, when you are making a lot of these choices and you're going through trial and error, yes, you do feel like you're wasting time. Yes, you do feel like, man, I'm uncertain. I'm all over the place. Man, I'm indecisive. I'm this, I'm that, right? But again, man, life comes with experiences for a reason. And I know for me, like, I'd rather just keep falling and bumping my head than just sitting on the sidelines and saying woulda, coulda, shoulda, wishing, thinking, playing it safe. You do got to play it safe sometimes, but man, that ain't what life about right now. Especially if you out here, man, we are young, you know, even if you got kids, but I'm just speaking like, no kids, your responsibilities are bare minimum, it's yourself, man, go figure it out. Go figure it out. And I've also learned that too within these last 6 months is that, man, we gonna always keep figuring it out. I was having a conversation with my cousin and we was talking about marriage, in the Black community, our generation. And this conversation was sparked from a video we watched together that was talking about the vanishing of the Black family. And, we were talking about how a lot of people now aren't getting married because people say, man, I got to do this first. I got to do that. I got to get this amount of money. I got to get this house. I got to figure it out. I got to do that. More so from a male perspective, right? And because now you have women saying they want a male to have these 9 boxes checked before they marry them. Now, I'm not saying just be willy-nilly, get married at 21, high off of love. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that figuring it out, when thinking about marriage, right? Find somebody to figure it out with. And it's the same with life. Like, you're going to always try to figure something out. You reach this one goal, you reach this one destination. Okay, it's something next to figure out. Okay, I want to be vice president of my company by 32. Okay, when you get there, guess what's waiting on you? More things to figure it out. Okay, I want to make $1 million. You make $1 million, guess what's waiting for you? Figuring out how to make another $1 million. Figuring out how to manage your money, figuring out how to deal with people and things around you that change. So it's always going to be something to figure out. I think the best advice I can give and what I'm learning is having a guideline on how to figure it out, how to figure things out, right? So as I mentioned at the start of this morning on this podcast, y'all follow me, y'all listen, y'all know I walk, I go to the gym, I do recovery, I go to church, I watch sermons, I watch podcasts, I got my small circle with influential friends and mentors that I tap in with and rely on. That's part of my process of figuring it out. Every win that I get, every loss that I get, it's another opportunity to figure it out. So, you know, just trust yourself more as we go through this process of life, as we go through making these different decisions. I was talking to a good friend of mine who actually motivated me to get back on these podcasts. She was telling me that she was going through a divorce, with her husband, I guess soon to be ex-husband. And she was saying how summer separation really motivated her and, was helping her really like look at some things on how to just, navigate. And, when I look back at summer separation, it was talking about figuring it out. And now she's working on figuring out what's next by herself. So don't ever think, man, it's going to be a time in life where you come to I've arrived moment. Even with seeking peace, we all want peace. We all want money. We all want what they call it, the soft life, the happy life. You'll get there, but then there's still gonna be something to figure it out. You'll make $1 million. You'll have the wife, the house, the kids, the cars, the jobs, the network. But you know what else happened in life that none of us can run from? Somebody may pass away. Somebody close to you may pass away. I'll be transparent with y'all with figuring it out. Shout out to and rest in peace to Khalid. Khalid Thomas passed away October 2023, right? It is now, almost 2.5 years. Well, yeah, but say about 2.5, right? Because it'll be 3 years this October. And, that was a death that did something to me where I'm still figuring it out. I figured out a good piece of how to deal with it and live with it, but I'd be lying if I say I figured it out. And, it's something that really crushed me and hurt me. And I think it hurt me because it was trauma. Well, I don't even think, right? All death, your close friends, that's going to hurt you. But it traumatized me a little more than normal because this also is a friend from college that became an adulthood friend. But it took me back to my childhood, at 15 when my friends started being killed. And when I meet my friends like Khalid in college and you meet friends in quote unquote real life adulthood, I'm not expecting that same result because it's like, okay, the neighborhood beef thing, the urban city stuff, all that drama, that's behind me. But then it's like it continues to happen. And unfortunately, I did a podcast about that. Y'all know, the victims of gun violence, the rate that black men are victims of gun violence is high in this country. But that's why I think it took me so low because I felt like I was back at 15 again, and I'm 34 today, So I felt like I was back at 15 again because I'm coping with that same type of pain. But the figuring it out and the mindset and the growth and the positive solutions that I have today, I didn't have as a 15-year-old. Why? Because I ain't even touched life yet. You know what I mean? I ain't even touched the tip of it to try to even figure it out. So even at 34, when I talk to older people, they like, man, you think you touched it? Yeah, you wait till you turn 50, wait till you turn 45. So yeah, man, I guess I did start this episode and said that I was going to jump around, which I've done, and go topic to topic. But I think it's safe to say that we could say this episode is talking about figuring it out while figuring it out. So I hope y'all have a great Sunday. I hope you have an amazing rest of June as we get ready for this summer. As I just said, the summer separation 2 is coming. I'm having more intentional, having more drawn out, and maybe not drag it with so many episodes, maybe try to compile it in a good 6 to 8 episodes to give you all some tools, some resources that I think may be able to enhance your life, not only for the summer, but for the other seasons to come after. So y'all know, like I always say, hustle plus faith equals success. I'm going to catch y'all on the next episode.